The power of this machine here, which is a fairly sizable mini computer, mainframe computer, one day will be on a chip. You'll get the same power out of a chip as you have in this mainframe computer. And that will happen in a very few years.
Well, even before that day comes, computers are still doing some pretty staggering jobs, many of which we take for granted and which would simply not be possible without computer power.
Redesigned.
Hello and welcome back to another episode of the Redesigned podcast. What's going on, people? My name is Mr. Cakebox, also known as the content producer. This week we're going to be talking about automation, namely the new initiative with McDonald's drive-thrus, which is going to be quite interesting. Also, some new driving laws. If you're here in the UK, you need to be aware of these driving laws with regards to mobile phone usage. That's going to be really interesting, so we're going to be talking about that. Also, HSBC are shutting down branches, giving a clear indication that we're on the way to being more of a cashless society, and we're going to rely less and less on banks in the traditional sense. And also this week, as promised, we're going to be going over to a chat with the panel, the Redesign Network. Shout out to Ade Akins, Dr. Shante and Miss Tammy. They'll be joining me on the podcast, so we're going to get into that conversation as well. We're going to be talking about the early days of the internet, our first exposures to the internet, and also, is social media dying? All of that coming up after this.
Cryptocurrency, artificial intelligence, Web 3.0, consumer electronics, social media, the metaverse, biotechnology, autonomous vehicles, the Internet of Things, virtual reality, augmented reality, CRISPR, space travel, digital media, next generation gaming, e-commerce, robotics, climate change, carbon neutral, engineering, wearable technology, digital health.
Redesigned.
Welcome back, and if you are tuning in on YouTube, make sure you hit the subscribe button, make sure you hit the bell as well so you're notified of new videos. New videos every Tuesday, as with the audio podcasts as well, every Tuesday on your favorite podcast platform. So we're on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Amazon Music, pretty much all of them. So whatever platform you're listening to, make sure you follow, hit the like, comment, subscribe, all of that good stuff. And also leave a review at the end of the podcast if you would like, because it helps to get found on the algorithms and stuff like that. It helps with the algorithms, helps new people to find the podcast, and keeps me motivated so I can come up with new ideas for new shows. So without further ado, let's jump into this week's first topic. So McDonald's, they are ahead of the curve once again. McDonald's is one of those companies you just can't kill. You can't get rid of McDonald's. I can't imagine a world without McDonald's, and no matter how much change is thrown at it, no matter how much society changes, you know, the whole healthy eating thing, the whole vegan movement, even the pandemic couldn't get rid of McDonald's. So McDonald's are ahead of the curve once again, and they are now looking to automate with AI the drive-through. So you've probably already got to McDonald's and seen that the kiosk side of things is already automated. So they're getting rid of a lot of the front of house staff. So you literally use a machine kiosk to make your order, then you go and collect it. McDonald's are not going to stop there. They're going a step further. With the drive-through, you're going to be using a system very, very similar to Siri or Alexa. And I think I might have just triggered, I knew it, I just triggered my Alexa. So yeah, it's very similar to Siri or something like that. So it's voice activated. Did you hear that? She is still going on. Apologies to anyone if I triggered your voice activated speaker. I'm not going to say the name, but yeah, kind of lost my train of thought. But anyway, yeah, so they're going to be using this voice activated system where it will take your order at the drive-through. So they're saying it's got about 85% accuracy at the moment, which is pretty good if you ask me, because usually when you go to the drive-through, they kind of mess up your order anyway, and you have to repeat yourself. But yeah, this is the way McDonald's is going. So it's not going to be like this year or anything like that. They're only testing. They're in the testing phases. So they're testing in a few cities in North America, but I'm sure it will spread to the rest of Europe and the rest of the world. So the CEO mentioned in a investors conference that they're looking to roll this out within the next 5 years. So McDonald's just sold its drive-through technology to IBM. So that's going to be a big deal. That's one of their partners on this automation. So yeah, it says here on businessinsider.com, the chain's early investment in AI would give it a future advantage. That is exactly what I expect from McDonald's, nothing less. They're always going to be around. Imagine a world without McDonald's. Anyway, I'm going to leave a link in the description if you want to check out that article there. It's really, really important because this just shows you that this is where we're heading. We are looking at AI solving problems, or maybe causing problems, in the labor market. So there's a huge shortage of labor. People don't want to do certain jobs anymore. And AI might be the answer, but it could be a blessing as well as a curse, because there's going to be a lot of people who are unemployed due to this stuff. They're going to need to upskill and find other areas to work in, especially if you work in retail or if you work in hospitality, fast food or something like that. It's going to displace a lot of people. But anyway, check it out. businessinsider.com. There's an article on there. Going to leave that link in the description. If you live in the UK and you are a driver, you need to pay attention to this. Yeah, so not only do you need to pay attention on the road, you need to pay attention to this. So they've got some new laws coming. The government are changing the highway code. So the DSA, Driving Standards Agency, DVLA, they are changing the highway code to deal with the loophole in mobile phone usage. So before this law, which was introduced 17 years ago, where you can't use your phone while driving, there were a few loopholes where you could use it to take photos or use it to look at your sat nav, or even if you just want to silence a call, as long as you're not really bait with it and you've got the phone to your ear while you're driving. Yeah, it was kind of all right, but obviously people do not know how to behave themselves. All you people that like to snap and drive or do Instagram stories while driving, yeah, I'm talking to you. Use your brain. £200 and 6 points. That's what they're giving you. Imagine what that's going to do to your insurance costs. And with these fuel prices, these gas prices, I don't know if you're balling out of control like that, but I don't know what's the point of getting 6 points on my license. It's not that deep. What, for social media or to send a text message? So what they're doing with this law, they are removing all grey areas. So this is what it means. This is what it's going to mean, right? So it means you will get a penalty for the following: illuminating your screen, unlocking your device, checking the time, checking notifications. Even rejecting a call is enough to warrant the 6 points penalty and the £200 fine. You can't take selfies, can't record videos. So if you're a YouTuber and you think you're going to record a video while you're driving in your car, you can forget that one. That is a no-go area. This includes dictating voice messages onto your phone, searching for photos, searching for music. No changing of songs on the phone. You better have some sort of in-car entertainment system built into your dash. You cannot be changing songs on the phone anymore. But I get it, because there are a lot of people who are so obsessed with their phone, they're probably killing people, injuring people, and us motorists, we need to behave. But it's probably all part of a bigger initiative anyway. They don't really want us driving. So a lot of people are going to be losing their licenses this summer. So this is going to be 25th of March. This law is going to come into place. So check that out as well. Link in the description. Nationalworld.com news on drivers warned of a strict new law coming into force this month with a £200 fine. Stay off that phone. Anyway, let's go for a quick break.
These days, lots of busy mums are noticing that their favorite mashed potato rattles. This is because it contains the real potato pieces that ensure a mashed potato that tastes absolutely perfect.
That is good.
And we think you'll find nothing else will seem quite the same again.
For mash, get smash.
HSBC are shutting 69 branches in the UK. So this announcement is another sign of things to come. More and more people are relying on online banking and going to branches less and less often, especially nowadays when you don't even need to go into your branch to pay a check. You can literally, I know with banks such as Monzo, you can literally take a photo of the check and then they will deposit the check for you. No more lining up. The pandemic was a great example of what used to happen. I remember there used to be so many, such long queues round the block to get to the bank to draw out money, or to let's say, for example, if you lost your debit card or you wanted some sort of other service, pay some money into an account. Long. This is the sign of things to come. Banks are probably going to be a thing of the past. Traditional banks or high street banks, they are on their way out. Just like I was saying with McDonald's, this is really going to change the job market for a lot of people. Retail banking, retail in general, hospitality. With retail, we're seeing a shift to direct to consumer. Amazon is kicking everyone's ass. This is a further sign of things to come. So it says here that 50%, less than 50% of customers are now actively using their branch network, with the average footfall declining by more than half since 2017. And as mentioned before, HSBC said the shift towards online and mobile banking had accelerated since the start of the pandemic. So especially with things like crypto, DeFi, you're going to see a lot more of this. And this is the start of the fourth industrial revolution. We are going into a new financial system. So it's definitely something that you need to keep your eye on. Make sure you stay educated on that. And more importantly, make sure you subscribe to this podcast, because I'm going to have some guests who are a lot more knowledgeable than me on DeFi, cryptocurrency, and all of that good stuff. So this is the beginning of the end of traditional banking. There's a lot going on here. Yeah. Moving on swiftly. But before we do that, let's go for a quick interlude.
Here, in the money markets of the city, is a miracle of technology the money dealers take for granted. You can make a telephone call anywhere in the world simply by touching a television screen. It's British Telecom's City Business System, and it gives the dealing room at Lloyds Bank International the speed of connection that is vital in a business where time is quite literally money. Helping London stay at the heart of the world's financial markets. British Telecom is the power behind the button.
Redesigned.
So if you've made it this far to the podcast, I want to thank you for sticking with me. And if you're enjoying the podcast, make sure you follow, you like, you subscribe. If you're on YouTube, same applies. Make sure you hit the bell. And make sure you leave a comment if you want to get involved in the conversation. And speaking of getting involved in the conversation, if you are on Twitter, you can get involved by using the hashtag RedesignPod, or you can drop me a voice note on Instagram. Just follow me at Mr_Cakebox and I'll pick that up and I might even play it on the show. If you've got any questions or anything like that or any feedback, let me know. So without further ado, like I said before, we are going to get into the topic of the week with the Redesigned Network panel. So yeah, we had a really interesting conversation about our humble beginnings on the internet, our first experiences, and also talking about social media. Is it dying? Let's jump into that right now. Before we jump on topic, I'm going to introduce the panel. And after that, we're going to get into some talking points. And in the meantime, if you haven't subscribed already, make sure you hit the subscribe button on all platforms, Spotify, Apple. Is it Apple Music? Yeah, I'm rusty, guys. I've not been on this podcast for like 18 months. So
bring it back to remembrance.
Amen. So who we got on the panel today? So I want to go around the room and just introduce yourself and give us your 30-second elevator pitch. Who we got in the house today?
Where we starting?
We're going to start with Tammy. Let's start with you.
Okay. So I am Tammy, Clytie Tammy. I am the host of a podcast called Who Moved My Back In, where I speak to Black women in business. I also have a subscription box for children under 4 years old, which is a bedtime subscription box with pajamas and books and everything to get them ready for bed. So that's what I do.
Cool. And we've got Dr. Shante in the house.
Hello, I'm Dr. Shante. I'm the host of a podcast called Whole and Complete. And that podcast really is about the intersection of faith and wellness. And so the show provides resources and coaching on navigating mental health issues, spiritual growth, and personal development. So that's what I'm about.
Last but not least, who else we got in the house?
Yo, I'm Ade Akins. I'm the host of the Advice podcast, where we discuss stuff that doesn't get discussed enough. Everything from mental health to relationships, polyamorous relationships, money matters, you name it, we discuss it.
Cool. So let's jump into the topics. So the first talking point is social media dying. I've been on social media since I don't even want to admit this, but I've been on social media since MySpace. If you don't know what MySpace is,
I'm on the since FacePic.
Do you know what? What came first, FacePic or MySpace? I can't even remember.
No, definitely FacePic, and then High Five, and then MySpace.
Oh my goodness!
MySpace was when I was in uni.
I do remember High Five.
Yeah.
Remember High Five.
So, from left to right, what was the first social media platform you joined? So Tammy, you're saying you joined FacePic.
Yeah.
Dr. Shante, what was the first platform you joined?
So my first was Facebook. I'm not antisocial. I'm selectively social. And so I was really reluctant to get on any social media platform. But then once it became evident that I was actually going to build a platform of my own, I was like, oh, okay.
So hold on. So when was this then when you started using Facebook?
2010.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So I guess 12 years ago, and I'm sure Facebook was around maybe a few years before that, but I was like, I felt like, everybody that needed to be in my life was already in it, and that I didn't need to engage further, and I didn't have that far thinking vision. And because I'm a natural born introvert, my inclination is never to reach out. It's always to kind of stay put. So yeah, when you guys are talking about MySpace, that whole thing passed me by. And I remember things were going around Black Planet and all kinds of things.
Yeah, I
was
remember
like, nope, I don't need none of that.
Ade, how about you?
I can't say that I recall which one was the first because I definitely remember being outside when high five was a thing. But I think the one that I can probably do we count is MSN social media or is that just messaging platform?
You know what? You could say that's social media because some people actually class WhatsApp as social media.
Make a case.
Yeah. So I mean, if you could say WhatsApp is social media, then you could definitely say MSN is social media.
Yeah, if not MSN, Bebo. I was definitely on the Bebo thing. I remember Bebo being a thing. You had your other half. You had your little bio. That was, yeah. I'd have to say if it's not MSN, it's definitely Bebo. But yeah, a long time ago.
Okay, so if we're gonna use if instant messaging counts, then it was AOL for me.
Oh my God! You know what?
AOL was the first for me. That was
still have my AOL email address.
Into messaging.
Okay, one thing. AOL what? 2.5, 3, 4?
Ooh, I think I was 3.
You were 3.
I think so. I've still got my AOL, so
that's crazy.
Dang.
Yeah,
so
that is crazy. Like I let that go a long time ago, but I was an early adopter of AOL. Like once that was going around, because everybody had an AOL email account, so that was my first before Facebook.
That's crazy. I remember when I was on AOL, it was like 1996 or 5. One of them. Yeah.
Hold on.
I'm an OG online.
Right.
How old are we?
I didn't know that email address internet was there around that time. I mean, well, okay. Let me explain. I was in Zimbabwe, right? I came to this country in 2000. So I was in Zimbabwe and I don't remember seeing the internet in 1995 in Zimbabwe.
Listen, the internet has been guided since the late 80s. Or early 90s.
We didn't get that.
Yeah.
Andrew, you were a pioneer. To have internet at that age. I don't even. What deal did you strike with the government to even get?
Like you knew somebody that knew somebody.
Listen.
Expensive then.
It wasn't even that expensive. It was like £15 a month. But then again, in money back then, that probably was expensive.
On top of the phone line.
On top of the phone line, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I think what they did eventually, they had
messages was like 10 cents a text.
Oh my God, 10.
And you had to compress everything into one text message and shorthand everything.
That's a different story. Like we could, you actually just gave me an idea for another show. You gave me an idea for a different show. I appreciate that. But when it comes to like AOL 1996, those times like you'd be in a chat room. And in order to get a picture of yourself, you would literally have to go and get a film roll, take a picture, develop it, get the picture, get a scanner, plug the scanner upload it. So there were so many people that had no avatar. So back then you were talking to people blind. Like these lot don't even know how good they've got it. They don't know.
You just had to ask them ASL, like your age,
yes,
location,
ASL,
and hope they were telling the truth.
Listen,
I remember ASL.
Listen.
Now that was an opportunity for catfishing. Like if there was ever a time where you could have got away with that, like that was the time.
Oh my God!
I can't lie to you. I was different people in them chat rooms depending on the day. I was never myself.
Ooh, what are those ones? Okay.
Yeah, but then I was like, once I leave, I leave. Right? Like I wasn't adding people to like my MSN at that time. I wasn't on AOL. So it was like, once I leave. Tomorrow I'll be someone else.
Do you know what? Do you know one thing I remember? Do you know one thing I remember? I remember being on those rooms there, and there were hardly any black folk on there.
And it was always racist. It would always get racist so quick. It would be like... you remind me of Habbo Hotel. That's what I used to be on, and that used to get so racist.
Oh my God!
It was like you were the equivalent of like Lego people, like in like digitalized little people, and you could explore different places. But it's a chat, and then I just used to get racially abused all the time.
See, that's why you had to be
effed
someone
up,
else,
man. But you know what? Saying that's basically like what the metaverse is, isn't it? Like an early version of what the metaverse is supposed to be. But we're going to talk about that maybe a bit later. But yeah, man, AOL. But social media, the first one what's the first? Yeah, I think it was MySpace. Either MySpace or Facebook, but probably MySpace. That's the one I actually remember being active on. And then Facebook. But Facebook, I've been on there since probably 2007 or 8. Yeah, 7.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Same, I think.
A long time.
8.
A very, very long time.
I didn't want to do it.
I remember my friend was telling me,
I still regret that decision today.
It's like, do you know what's funny?
My friend was telling me, you need to join Facebook. And I was like, nah, I don't think it's going to take off. They're like, no, it's going to. I was like, nah, I think it's just going to be a quick one. It's just going to come and it's going to die. So I was like, nah. So I didn't join for ages. And then everyone was on it. I was like, okay, fine. I'll join, but it's not going to be here tomorrow. And now look.
Yeah.
I remember when Facebook was for the young people, and then my parents. So that's why I don't use Facebook, because the minute my parents got on Facebook, I was like, this is done and dusted.
My granddad is on Facebook. When I saw my granddad on Facebook, I said, you know what, it's time to exit.
Exactly.
Nah.
So am I the only one here that's
Snapchat, and that's where I drew the line. I was like, I ain't snapping no chats. I can't do it.
See, I was on Snapchat for like a few months, and I was like, nah, this ain't for me. This
Instagram is like my pace. Like,
I was like, Snapchat, I was like, this is for cheating. I was convinced Snapchat was just for cheating.
It's not a good
how
look.
do you send me messages and then disappear?
Right.
I was like, this is a cheating app. So I was like, nah, I'm not sad.
Says the ex-catfish. How dare you even judge anybody's use of social media?
The game recognized game, though. She was like, I peep game from jump. I see what this is. This is a tool that I would have had at my disposal.
Exactly.
Like in my day.
That's some crazy shit, man. Who's on TikTok? TikTok is where I draw the line. I joined recently, but it's like I just don't get it.
Yeah,
everyone's just doing the whole real thing.
Very addictive. Like I literally spend like 2 hours
on TikTok and like consume. So am I consuming TikTok videos on a daily basis? Yes. Like it is wildly entertaining. But am I producing content for TikTok? No. Because it's a different animal, and I feel like I need a tutorial. Like I feel like the early adopters that came in and did it. But then also too, I have to find my space, right? Like, so I'm very, how do I want to say this? I'm just going to say this the most American way that I can say it, and then I will go back and explain this term if you're not familiar with this term. I can't do the happy Sambo. Are we familiar with this term, the Sambo?
No.
Okay, so the Sambo,
I have an idea.
After slavery. Okay, so like after slavery, there were not like a ton of economic opportunities for, these newly freed slaves. And so the Sambo was like that minstrel entertainer, that ha cha 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 cha, like that performer, right? And I was like, I'm not going on TikTok, and I'm not going to be the Sambo. I'm not going to be the minstrel. I'm not going to be like doing little dances and pointing to words and all of that. I said, I ain't built for this chitlin circuit. I'm not. No, I got too many student loans. I've paid too much money into like my education. I'm not going to be up here entertaining you like I'm Mr. Bojangles or Sammy Davis Jr. or somebody. So I basically had to like I'm still figuring out how am I going to position myself on TikTok so that I'm still relevant and me, but I can't jump on I ain't never been with a baddie. Like I might do that stuff with my teenager.
I don't even know what that is.
I'm not doing that like on camera for people to be entertained.
I don't know if I did. I don't know if I tweeted this, but I definitely thought it that you would never see me dancing on TikTok. Like it's never gonna be me. Until I heard that song and I was like,
Now you've been with a baddie.
Maybe I kind of wanna do that.
And I just heard a story about a TikToker who, in a year, she made $17.5 million from doing that stuff. And let me tell you, everyone has a price. My price is a lot less than that. So if you can promise me that much, you're going to see me on TikTok.
You'll be dancing on TikTok.
Twerking and doing the whole thing.
We ain't doing all that.
Okay.
We ain't doing all that. But TikTok isn't. I consume TikTok that's been posted onto Instagram. I appreciate consuming it, but I deliberately don't know my login, and I don't, because I know it's like because I spend time on Reels. Like I can go into Reels and be there for an hour and a half, like consistently. So TikTok, I won't get anything done. So I just choose to kind of but I respect. I feel like Gen Z and the creative stuff they're doing, like it's so mind-boggling how they can even think to just create stuff on that scale, and they utilize what they have at their disposal, and it's really inspiring. But it's not really for me, to be honest.
Yeah, I second that. Like, I have the account, but and the thing is, I don't want to get hooked on it. I don't think I can. Not at my age, anyway. I kind of know. I know where it's going, so it's like, nah. But do you think social media is actually dying now? There's been so many platforms. You've had Facebook, Instagram, Snapchat, and some have died along the way. Like is Clubhouse even still a thing?
Yeah.
I believe so. I believe it still exists.
But I think there was one before that.
I got ghetto and I got out. I was like, oh. Clubhouse was really good in the very beginning when you were able to just kind of like connect with people. But then I feel like there's this faction of people that permeate in every single social media circle. And it's basically like the grind gang, right? Like, okay, so let me tell you how to flip this Clubhouse into 10K next month. And it's like, damn, my G, like we were just having like straight up like heart to hearts. We were connecting about ideas. We were vibing. And then here come the hustle gang to try to like tell you how to parlay this into something that can be monetized. And I feel like as soon as that group comes to the party, it's like, I'm out. Okay, it's ghetto. Now it ain't special no more.
Yeah, I think people, the hustle gang, as you call them, or marketers, they ruin every platform they touch. Everything they touch literally turns to dust. Marketers, please leave it alone. God damn.
See, I didn't get a chance to go on Clubhouse because I have a Samsung. So by the time it came to Android, everyone was off it.
Oh shit.
If that isn't an advert for Apple, I don't know what is.
Listen, like Andrew, get your coins, brother. Like you need to put something out there. It's like, look, I'm looking for sponsorship.
Yeah, I might have to set up a young Patreon or something.
An Apple phone. Nope.
You'll never get an Apple phone.
Nope.
Why not?
I think it's now become just like a thing that I have to say, no, I'm Android, and that's it. Because I've said so much shit about Apple. I thought that was an American
thing, but I see it's universal. Android users are dug in. They will die on the hill for that raggedy ass phone. They're like, no, God dang it. Like, no, this is the hill I'm going to die on. Apple, fuck you fanboys. We're not doing it. And it's like, but it ain't even that deep for you. Like you got caught up, you got swept up in the movement, sis. Like you can come over. It's okay.
No, let me tell you why. Android is actually better than iPhone because every time iPhone releases this new feature, you like get so excited. And I'm just like, we don't have that 2 phones ago. You're like just getting excited about this. Like,
only Android users care. Like, I've never ever heard an Apple user ever say, this phone, we don't care.
Right.
We genuinely don't care. We just like...
You guys are like, and you don't...
Android users will like, but we had this feature in update 2. And like, nobody cares. When you use Snapchat, it looks like you're on CCTV. Why are your Instagrams pixelated?
Samsung users be acting like oppressed people. Like they got all the characteristics and traits like, nah, representation matters, we invented that. Like you just trying to like get your 40 acres and a mule, which is an American concept. Like that's what we was owed after slavery. But like, that's how y'all be showing up. And Apple users be like, okay, like.
Exactly. There's so much animosity.
That's why I don't understand those, you know, those Apple presentations where they're telling you about the new features on the phone. The camera has, 48 megapixels with an f-stop of 1.8 and a,
bro.
I don't
just care. Tell us what color it comes in.
Right.
And how big the screen is.
Right. And the battery
and
life.
How fast can it charge. That's all we care about.
That's it.
That's it.
I don't think you guys care about anything. I think you guys would just get an iPhone as long as it's an iPhone. You don't care whether it's good or not.
The thing is, I think an iPhone will always be good.
Android.
Say that again.
If you guys cared about the phone, you'd get an Android. But you guys don't care.
Do you know what it is? I've been.
Let me tell you the two words that will never pull me back to the Android side of things. Force close. If you have ever had an Android phone and you're using an app and then them apps just force close, like they stop, they freeze, they what have you. Well, that's how it works in the US. And
I've seen that. I've seen that on my mom's phone. I've actually seen that.
This is hood. So I can't do it. I've never had that problem using an iPhone ever.
Yeah, that's. I think, and another thing with the whole Apple thing is, I've been in the Apple ecosystem for like 4 or 5 years, so, or even longer than that, maybe even longer.
It must be longer.
It must be longer. I think I started with the iPhone 4, so that's probably like 2010, 2011. Yeah, 12 years. I don't see any point in doing anything else.
You know.
See, there you go. I just don't. It's not that deep. It's not that deep. But I will say this though, when a new app comes out, you Android people are always left in the dust for some reason. I don't know. Maybe the developers know something that we don't know, but
no.
Hey man.
I don't get it. I think it's discrimination because it's like, why don't we have it?
Because you have so many great features. You don't need to worry about what we have.
You could play with your features.
Already in the metaverse.
Exactly. We digress.
Like the ratio of single people with like Samsung phones, because like when the dating apps come in, Apple users got first like pick at like all of the singles that were like in the ethos, and then the Samsung people came along and got like the leftovers and the scraps, and then be like, "There's P in the dating pool." That's because you got that raggedy ass phone. That's why. It's like
people get single every day. Okay, people get single every day. They join them apps, so it's new fishes coming in.
We digress. So, the state of it right now, where do you think social media is heading? Do you think it's dying? You know, what's the future looking at? What's the future looking like in your opinion?
To be honest, I don't think social media is social anymore. Like, so if we're going to go with like the original intention, like, hey, let's catch up with, old friends from high school, or like, hey, my favorite teacher from the 5th grade, it's not that anymore. Because people are no longer really kind of like interacting and socializing. Everything is curated. Like there's so many filters. And so people are curating these stories. They're curating the highlight reels of their lives. And now they are just coming, literally, most of the people that I talk to say they're on social media to be entertained or infotained. Like I'm either here for information or I'm here, for a laugh to see if there's something that's shareable, to my friends and what have you. But in terms of like putting my quote unquote personal business out there, most of the people that you see that are like quote unquote doing that and like being quote unquote social are people that are curating a brand. Like, hey, look at my picture perfect relationship. This is relationship goals. And now I've curated 150,000 followers. And now I have these sponsorships and now I'm getting paid on the back end. So social media in terms of legit socialization, no, everything is one big commercial now. That's how it feels. So if has social media dying, I think from that regard, it's already died. Like it's dead.
But don't you think that gives a gap in the market for another social media company to come and say, we're going to give you back that authentic relationships and, catching up what Facebook was basically when it first came out? Don't you think that kind of leaves a gap for another company probably working on something right now to say, we're going to come in and we're just going to make it social and no hashtag ads, no hashtag gifted or none of that?
I wonder about that. And I wonder now if people still see the value in doing that, right? Because I'm sure I would love to hear the stories of people who got on social media, and because they were on social media, somebody who wasn't in their orbit that they weren't thinking about and didn't want to interact with found them, and because you were now in the fishbowl. And then all of a sudden you get a DM from somebody that you didn't want to hear from, ain't spoke to in years. And it's like, damn, like I was incognito and here you come, with these outreach efforts. And it's like, I don't want these outreach efforts because I kid you not. So Facebook has like these two features, right, that I despise. One of them is like, here are people you might know or people you should know. I'm like, no, I know all the people I need to know. Everybody I need to know, I know. And then, you know, like the Facebook friend requests, like low key, I got damn near like 200 Facebook friend requests. They're just sitting there. And some of these people I even know, some of these people I'm actually related to. And I'm like,
I don't want you.
Sorry, Grandma. No.
like, nah, like if you need to reach me, you got my, like if it's really important or deep, like either you can reach me or you can reach out to my mama. Like, you know somebody that can get to me. So how about we not do this? How about I not create this portal? So when you say, is there an opportunity for other people to jump in? I wonder now would people go there because they're like, you know what? This might have seemed like a good idea in the beginning. You know, it's kind of like how it started versus how it's going. And now that people know how it's going, because if somebody did create that, I sure the hell wouldn't jump over there. I'd be like, oh, hell no. No.
See, I feel like we are speaking, as we're speaking, it's reminding me of how I would imagine our parents were speaking about certain technology, about, oh, you kids don't, no. Things change. Like we had what I would call the golden era of social media, like when you could literally, you know, the things that you described, we can do that. Whereas now it's a different type of platform. I'm sure if you was to ask the younger generation, like the people who are using TikTok, the people who grew up on Snapchat, what they think of social media, they might have a completely different respect. I just feel as if the concept of social media as we know it is changing. Whether that's for the best depends on who are you speaking to, because I had my time on Twitter and now I use social media in a different way. Do I sometimes miss those other aspects? Yeah, but I don't know. I just feel like things change and it's time we just kind of get with the program. I feel like nostalgia is making us feel like, oh, social media is dead. No, but it's not our time anymore.
That's what makes me think about what Andrew said. It's like the marketers it's always the marketers that come in and just kill the vibe, you know, like once the money gets introduced into the conversation, then it's like, oh, you know, like I remember, let me tell you something. The golden age that you talk about, like the Camelot of social media, I'm going to tell you when it died for me, because I knew it was coming. The day that Facebook bought Instagram, I was like, welp, you know, like that, like, there goes the neighborhood, because I knew it was just a matter of time. And Instagram has been basically trash ever since, like between the algorithms and this, Andrew, I'm not sure if you've seen that there's a documentary on Netflix called, like, what the hell is it called? The Social Something. But basically it talks about like how the algorithms,
what is it about the privacy?
Aggregate all of, yeah, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
so like they're aggregating things, and so you don't see things in real time anymore. And I have so many quote unquote friends on Instagram, I never see their stuff. It never populates like it used to. And I'm missing out on these wide swaths because now it's all about ads and revenue and that sort of thing. And so like the day that Facebook bought it, it was the beginning of the end. And it just, and nothing, maybe to Ade's point, like we had our moment, we had our Camelot, and now basically I feel like there's 0 point on being on social media unless you are trying to entertain, educate, or sell. If you're 100%. Not trying to entertain, educate, or sell, there is 0 point in you being on social media.
Yeah, but we could take that a step further and say social media is now about creating value, whereas before you could hang out, it could be their neighborhood. Some might argue that's better because now if you're not creating value, you're not taking up space. So whether your job is to dance, make me smile, whether your job is to sell me something, whether your job is to whatever, at least we are getting value. And what some people see as valuable may not be what everyone sees as valuable, but at least it's not just people in the first time tweeting their name saying, hi, how do you use this thing? At least now everyone's creating some type of utility for others. So I guess it depends how you look at it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I don't think social media is dying. I think, Ade, you're absolutely right that it's dying for us. Maybe our generation, we're over it because I'm using social media less. I'm just like, there's nothing here for me. But my 14-year-old brother, he's on TikTok all the time. You know, he's on Snapchat. That's what he does. Like, not Facebook, not Instagram. They're on TikTok. That's what they're doing. So I don't think it's dying. I think it's just the generations are different now. And what we found entertaining, we don't anymore. Like, we now find it a waste of time. But they're still entertained. You know, they're loving the dancing. They're dancing all the videos. But we're just like, yeah, I'm not doing that. So I don't think it's dying. It's just changing.
So speaking of the change, we spoke briefly about the whole Apple thing. So Apple are one of the companies that have actually killed Facebook's business model with all the privacy settings that they've introduced on the newer iOSs. So now Facebook's main business model is now broken. So the ad revenue is going to suffer tremendously. And that's one of the main reasons why Facebook have decided to rebrand to Meta. So that's the perfect segue to this whole metaverse thing. Do you think you will be participating in the metaverse in the future? What do you think of it? Or is it time to, check out?
I don't think it's for me. Like, when the whole thing came out, well, I've thought this about myself for a very long time, that I'm going to be one of those people that just have like tin foil all over their house and walk around with like a tin foil hat because they're coming to get us. I think I'm going to end up being one of those people because I'm just like, I can't deal with this. Like, it's just too much for me. You know, it's too much for me. I can't deal with it. I don't even like using the whole VR because I got a free VR when I got my phone, my Samsung phone. I got a free VR.
They got to incentivize y'all. They got to throw in bells and whistles. Okay, they got to throw in bonuses.
Yeah, and I didn't like it. I didn't like the whole thing. But I think it just goes maybe to my personality that I like to be in control of situations. And in a VR, I don't feel like I'm in control. I feel like it's too alien for me. So I don't know.
I'll keep it a buck. I'm never actually, except with the exception of the iPhone, I'm never really an early adopter. I'm probably like the early majority, maybe even late majority, where like I let everyone dip their toes in, let me know what it's saying, and then I'll get involved. The way the future is going, this metaverse it's not even like, is it for you or not? It's whether, do you want to be involved? Do you want to refuse the fact that this is happening? And do you want to wrap yourself in tinfoil? I won't be wrapping myself in tinfoil, but I won't also be jumping in head first. I think it's kind of inevitable that we're going to have to, because sooner or later, like, simple things will, it's already happening. Look at chatbots. When you want to talk to a brand or you want to return something, the first thing you need to do, you don't call anyone anymore. Now you have to talk to a robot essentially to kind of say, I want to do this. That's going to quickly change into a virtual reality person. And before you know it, you can't do anything without engaging in the metaverse. So I want to really know more about the metaverse in itself, and what can I do to kind of go in and protect myself almost, because all I think about is, man, you've got my data. Now you want me. Like, now you want more than that. So it's like, what can I do to at least be awake to the pimping that's about to happen?
The pimping that's about to happen. So my take on the metaverse is slightly different. So here in the States, Facebook is really all but under indictment. Like, basically, there was a whole ass insurrection attempt, to overthrow the government on January 6th of last year. And, kind of like right-wing media and, conservatives had tried to kind of like sweep that under the rug. Like, that's not really what happened. That was like a peaceful protest. But I'm sure there was footage. Like, I'm sure you guys saw people storming the Capitol, right?
Oh, yeah.
And I'm like, we ain't even gonna have a conversation that if those would have been black people, we wouldn't even made up the steps. Okay. But, I digress. And so when they start parsing out and like, okay, let's follow the money. Let's follow where this has, like, let's get down to the root of this. And where's this dissension coming from? And where are these ideas being planted? And where are people being radicalized into these ideas that you can literally overthrow the U.S. government? Well, Facebook found itself right smack in the middle of that, because hate speech keeps people on the platform longer. And so, because that's their whole business model, like, let's make that money. And so they are literally like right in the crosshairs of congressional, potentially felonious and criminal acts. And so they're like, let's pivot. Let's do a PR, like, let's, so the metaverse came smack in the middle while all of this is going on, because people are now trying to distance themselves from Facebook because there's been virtually zero accountability, right? Now, having said that, so anything that Facebook does or the metaverse does, I'm looking at with like a sidelong glance. I'm like, what are you trying to distract me from? This is just another distraction, like pay attention to this while this is going on in the background. And so I'm looking at it. I'm not necessarily going to participate in it, but what I'm really looking more closely at is what you're trying to like keep behind the curtain that I can't really see. Because if you're in business, bottom line is if it don't make money, it don't make sense. And so I'm in the same place as kind of like the congressional leaders of the United States. It's like, let me follow where this money is going. The pimping that's about to occur. Let me see what that model is going to look like. And I'm paying attention to it, but I'm not necessarily participating in it because I don't want to contribute to the noise. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't want to contribute to the new shiny object, so to speak. It's like, yeah, I don't want to participate.
But I feel like I hear you and I agree with you, but I feel that we kind of kid ourselves because look at how big Meta, Facebook, whatever you want to call them, look how big they are. You can say, okay, I'm not going to be involved in this, but you're still giving them money over here. You're still giving them your data over here. So it's like, whilst in theory, I understand, unless you are literally going to cut off power, stop using the internet, take yourself off the map,
wrap ourselves in tinfoil.
What are you? Do you know what I mean? It's like, it's almost to kind of be like, I'm putting a stand here, but they've got everything you're worried about. They've got that data.
And maybe that's the question that we need to be asking. So maybe it isn't the question, are we going to participate in the metaverse? Are we still going to be on Facebook? Maybe the question we need to be asking is, what is the rationale for still being on Facebook? We keep talking all this rah-rah. We realize they got our data. Why don't we just say, I'm out and step back?
We are addicted.
What is the rationale for still being on there? Because I'm sure everybody on this podcast has at least contemplated at least one time, man, I'm getting off of this. These people are like, I'm out. And yet we're not out.
Well, this is the thing. We're addicted.
Go ahead, Andrew. It's
part of life, right? And we've been doing, do you know what it is? I think we've been doing it for so long, right? That it's not something that you can just stop doing. Like, it's the neural pathways in our brain that wake up, check your phone, check Instagram, check Facebook, check whatever social media platform you sometimes you just pick up. Have you ever just had your phone there, you're doing nothing, you just got a moment to yourself, and for some reason you don't even know why, you pick up your phone? Why does that happen?
Yeah.
Imagine if the phone had no internet and you didn't want to call anybody. Do you think you would just pick up your phone periodically, like 146 times a day? You wouldn't. So there's something on that phone that is calling you. You're addicted. I've thought about it many times. I've had discussions with my wife about it. It's like, can you come off of Instagram? Can you? Yeah, I'm sure I can. Yeah. Nope. So many of us are like, social media is dead. Like, social media is bad. It's bad for you. It's really bad for you. Okay, come off it then.
It's like, so why are you still smoking the cigarettes? Like, cigarettes are bad. Why are you still smoking?
Right. So I'm guilty of it too. Like, I think, like Tammy was saying about kind of like outgrowing it. Same thing with me is that I look at it, I'm like, this ain't for me unless because the sort of accounts that I follow now is more about my craft, whether it's technology or art or design or stuff like that, or stuff that I really am into, like, separately away from what I'm known for, like menswear, watches, for example. If it ain't that, I don't care. But there's a part of me that wants to know what's going on with everyone else. Mm-hmm. I'm just being real.
That still clicks on Shade Bar and Shade Room.
see, I've managed to distance myself from that.
No,
I don't follow Shade Room. I don't follow Shade Bar or any of those. I am conscious enough. I'm aware enough to know that that is not what I should be consuming if I want to kind of distance myself from this stuff. So I kind of like, I'm pivoting towards, okay, I'm going to create content, I'm going to produce, I'm not going to consume as much. Because it is really, it really is a time suck.
So I really want to like pivot back to this point that you made about like, you're sitting there, you're doing nothing, you grab your phone, like you're so hardwired, like this has become a part of life. So even that is intentional, right? So there is like a show that broadcasts in the US called 60 Minutes. And it's basically kind of like this mini documentary about all these various aspects of like human life. And so long story short, in Silicon Valley, the Googles, the Facebooks, the whatever, there are developers that they have hired specifically to do something that's called brain hacking, right? So pretty much it's like the algorithm, you might post something and you think it's really good content and it might get like 12 likes. And it consistently puts you at like 12 likes, 8 likes, 10 likes. And then one day it hits you with like 60 likes. And so it kind of like trains your mind for like this reward system. Like you'll be rewarded if you engage. You'll be rewarded, you know, with these likes, with these perks. Oh, you earned a badge. You earned a sticker. And so that sort of thing, like literally is intentionally trying to condition you to stay on the platform longer. And so to your point, it's almost like there has to be like a collective deprogramming, like to go to rehab almost, you know, because of these addictive tendencies. Because when you ask anybody flat out, why are you still on it? They can't provide you with a logical reason why they're still on it. It's a behavioral reason. It's like it just is a part of how I do life on a regular basis. And that's the part that comes into the brain hacking. Like now, this is something that I just do and is a part of my daily life. And that's the part that we have to undo if you're really going to be intentional about it.
I couldn't agree more.
Hard work.
You said that sounds like hard work. It is, girl. Getting off crack is hard. Okay. Like
it sounds, well, what I did, I have decided because I was spending so much time on my phone. So like crazy amounts. So I've limited all the social media apps to 1 minute each. Yeah. Because I can't go cold turkey. I've accepted it. So I'm not going to delete them. I'm not going to lie to myself.
1 minute
1 minute.
A day.
A day for each app. So 1 minute Instagram, 1 minute Twitter, 1 minute TikTok, 1 minute Facebook.
That's hardcore, you know.
It's like I'll be on. It's hard because I'll be in the middle of watching a story and then it just goes off. And then, like you're saying, it's like a drug. In my head, I'm like, okay, so what's the next app? Okay, cool. Let me go on Twitter. Go on Twitter for 1 minute. It closes. Now, okay, what's the next app? So, and I hate it. I hate it. But I was so proud of myself when last week I got the, you know, how much you've used your phone, those notifications. And it was like, you've used your phone 5 hours less this week. And I was really proud of myself. But I'm like, yay me. Like, this is really working. But then it's still sometimes, I think it's a fear of missing out because I'm still like, but what's happening on there? But then when I go on there, there's nothing happening.
I was just about to say, but how much of your day did you spend thinking about what you're missing out? Because as in your own words, you hit one app and then you went straight to another drug and then you went to another drug. Whereas if you had just reduced it slightly, you might not have had. I'm just picking holes in your thing. I find it very interesting.
I couldn't. Because I would spend, for example, on average, probably would spend like an hour and a half throughout the day on like Instagram, maybe like 2 hours on TikTok. Like I would be in bed just on TikTok because TikTok, that's so quick and that's so entertaining. Like I'm going to bed at like 2:00 and I went to bed at 11, but I'm still awake at 2:00 just on TikTok. And then after TikTok, I go on Reddit. Then after Reddit, I'm going on Twitter before I go to sleep. Yeah. It was too much. So I was like, 1 minute, that's all you're going to get. If I need to actually look for something or do something on there, then I would extend it to maybe about 10 minutes. And then whatever I need to do, I can do it in 10 minutes and then I'm out.
Wow. Three years ago, I made a decision to, I turned off notifications. So except for WhatsApp, and I don't have notifications because that in itself is like, you always feel like you're missing out when you kind of see. So that's the first thing I did.
But the counter to that is for me, because I don't have notifications. It's the what if there's a notification I've posted.
You know what?
They got you bad.
To your point, like, let me tell you something. I'm a college professor, right? And I have had students that will show up to class. So pre-pandemic, okay, so we're in the classroom. I will have students show up to class, show up to lecture, no book, no paper. The essay, I'm an English professor. The essay that's due that day, they don't have that. Like, oh, I left that at home. I left my laptop. I left my book. If these mofos leave the house and realize they left their phone,
oh, they're going back.
Guess who's going to be late for they're going to turn all the way back around like, oh no, I can't be without my phone today. Like, it's just like not a thing. And so even us, like, think about the anxiety that you have when your phone dies. You're like, and you're not going to be able to juice it for like another hour, 2 hours. It is tantamount to like physical crack withdrawal. Like, oh my God, like what is going on? You know, like you rocking back and forth, you breaking out in sweats. And it's like, can we take a beat and think about that? Like the physical reaction, the neural systems that are firing right now, the anxiety and panic that you feel right in this moment because you don't have this device, which is really driven, back to Andrew's point, by like all this quote unquote social media, but it's not social. You know what I'm saying? It's just voyeurism. You are looking and lurking, and sometimes you're liking, but really you're not invested in an exchange of like ideas. You're just used to being titillated. And that is problematic. It's so problematic.
100%. And that's probably why the metaverse is that is the future of social media. There's no social component to it. It's just like you are in a digital space and then you've now got your digital life and you've got your physical life. But now we're heading to a point where your digital life is almost just as important as your physical life. And I think that's dangerous because, you know, we're talking about addiction here. Wait till they get those headsets on us. Well, it won't be me. I mean, that's probably why I have probably bought every gadget that I can think of. But the one thing that I've always held back from is the VR headset. Because I know if I get that VR headset on my head, it's game over.
Your kids ain't going to see you for 2 weeks.
So what's going to happen? What's going to happen if someone gifts you for Christmas?
Listen, I will use it, but I've been saying this for years. It's like I need to say the Lord's Prayer and, you know, protect me from whatever this thing is. Evil. You know, I'm already afraid of it in certain aspects. So I don't think I will allow myself to be sucked in. Because the same thing, I've got a PlayStation 4. I've turned it on like 4 times in six or 7 months. You know, I'm not one to just sit down and play computer games all day. I have one, but, you know, so if I was to be gifted a headset, it's like, okay, see what it's about, you know, learn about it, but don't get sucked in, because personally, I prefer the outside world. Maybe I'm old school. It may be a generational thing, because these young bucks now are being conditioned and primed for the metaverse. Because if you know any young children under the age of, you know, 12, the big thing, all they care about is Roblox. Like my son is 9.
Yeah.
Yes.
He spends ungodly amounts of time. It's like I literally have to take the iPad
I'm glad
from him.
my daughter is past the Robux phase. I'm like, what the hell is Robux? Like what?
What is it? It's so boxy.
Yeah, but that's that's
Minecraft,
the early phase of the
like
metaverse.
Minecraft / Roblox went hand in hand. But you know what? So back to Tammy's point, and to piggyback on what you're saying. So where's the gap now? I think that analog is the gap now that needs to be filled, because I think that there is a generation, most of us on this episode, right? I think there's a generation that is really kind of like craving authentic human experiences. I think that's one of the reasons why Clubhouse took off so far, so fast. So like, because people were like, oh my gosh, human engagement. And it's not, you know, appy and, you know, visual. Like you actually have to listen and like use your people skills, like use your soft skills. And then, you know, marketers came along and jacked it all up. But what that told me, and the reason why I was even intrigued by it, I was like, wait a minute, there's an opportunity to get back to like legitimate human connection. So I think that the real gap now is that everybody that is kind of like craving human connection, that's the market to exploit. It's like, hey, we taking it back. You know, we may not be taking it back to the typewriter, but let's take it back to like legitimate conversations, real engagement. And I think that God only knows when we'll be out of this pandemic, but I think that post-pandemic, that's what people are going to be looking for, like legitimate, face-to-face, you know, not doings, but experiences, like connections, meaningful connections, because that's what social media does, is that it makes you think that you're connected to people, but you don't really know what's going on in their lives. You're not really like friends, you know what I'm saying? And so I think that's where the gap is. That's where the opportunity is.
So that's it for this week. Hope you enjoyed that. Make sure you subscribe, follow, like, comment, share, all of that good stuff. If you can, it would really be appreciated if you could leave a review on Spotify. 5 stars if you like it, 1 star if you think it's shit. It's up to you, doesn't really matter. It all helps the algorithm. What else was I gonna say? Yeah, that's pretty much it. Make sure you're following me on the socials: Instagram, TikTok, Twitter at Mr_Catebox, the content producer. So that's it for this week. Hope you enjoyed that. We will be back next Tuesday for another episode of Redesign. This is the podcast that talks about all things technology, digital culture, social media, robotics, AI, crypto, all that good stuff. And we're going to try and make it more and more interesting every week. So that's it for now. Take care. Bye for now.